Welcome to the Man in the Kitchen. Today we're going to be making a super hearty, delicious beef coconut curry with pineapple and some cassava root. So for my meat, I have a few pieces of delicious hanger steak. It's a pretty cheap cut of meat, but perfect for this kind of thing. It's soft, a bit chewy, has some fat, just awesome. I also have some cassava root that I found at the local market. Replace it with potatoes if you don't have that, but either of them work. And of course, some pineapple, some coconut milk, and also some rice, which is what we're gonna eat this curry with. I've been soaking it for the past 20 minutes or so to make it easier to cook. Let's get going. We're gonna begin the prep by peeling the pineapple. So just kind of get a knife and trim the edges, the skin off and the bottom until there's no more rough edges around it. Try to get as little pineapple thrown out as possible. If you have a better way of doing this, go for it. This is the only way I know how. After that, we're just gonna slice it up, dice it up into cubes of about an inch and put it into a bowl. Next up is the cassava root. Now we're gonna do the same thing here, just peel off the sides and then cut it up into large chunks. We're also gonna give it a quick rinse because I found it to be a little oily or something like that. Cassava is really similar to cook to potatoes. It just takes a bit longer and the texture itself is a lot more interesting. It's a bit more bitey, has a bit more chewiness to it, but it's super delicious. If you give it a shot, let me know how you like it. Last up is the meat. I like my stews chunky and curries as well. So I'm gonna make pretty large cuts of about 2 inches in size. Remember, when it starts cooking, it's gonna reduce in size quite a bit. So don't worry if it seems a bit too big. Now the first thing that we're gonna do before we start the curry is rinse our rice. It's been soaking for about 20 minutes or so. So at this point, we're just gonna pour the water out, then pour some more water in, kind of stir it, and repeat this process 3 or 4 times until the water is mostly clear. This removes any of that extra starch on the rice and makes sure that it keeps nice and fluffy as we cook it. For the actual curry now, we're gonna start off by heating our pan to a medium-high heat with some olive oil, or if you have coconut oil, it would be great here. I don't have any, so olive oil it is for me. And we're gonna start by searing our meat. We're gonna do this in batches so that it actually gets seared and doesn't sweat. So place it in there, not too much so it's nice and separated, and then leave it in until it's brown on one side, which should be about 3 minutes or so, at which point you can flip it and kind of repeat the process batch after batch. Once seared on all sides, we're gonna remove it and place it aside and go in with the next batch. We can do this in pieces. As you take some out, you can put some more in, whatever is easier for you. And we're gonna repeat the same process with all the meat until everything is nice and brown. At some point towards the end, we're gonna put up the rice up for boil. So just put it on the stove, high heat, close it with a lid, and bring it up to a simmer or a boil. last batch, we're gonna go in with our veggies, starting with the onions. So just plop them in there, stir them up, and begin frying them. Once the onions kind of all separated and began to fry, we're gonna go in straight with the cassava. This is my assumption of how this should be done. If it should be done differently, please leave it in the comments, but this is how I'm doing it. So we're gonna go in with the cassava, stir everything together, and at this point I'm also gonna add a bit of water in there. So I'm doing this to deglaze the frying pan, but also kind of help everything cook. The water is gonna soften up the onions a bit, gonna soften up the cassava, and the steam will kind of help everything integrate. So at this point, I'm just gonna stir everything together and keep cooking it until cassava starts to soften up a bit, starts to get cooking. Add a bit of water here and there to kind of make sure nothing is burning in there and that steam supply is constant. And just keep going like that for about 10 minutes or so. After about 5 minutes, so halfway through that, we're gonna go in with a pineapple, add it in there, mix everything up, and let it release some of its juice. After about 7 minutes or so, you'll see that everything is kind of browning up nicely. It's turning this beautiful golden color. We're gonna go in with the garlic, and I also have some turmeric there, which is completely optional, but I thought it might add a nice touch to the dish. Last up are the tomatoes, which again, we're just gonna throw in there, mix everything up, and let it start integrate. We're not gonna cook them that much, so shortly after, we're gonna go in with the meat. So after about 30 seconds or so, we're gonna go in with the meat. And again, just mix everything up, give everything a chance to integrate. And at this point, we're also gonna season everything. So get some salt and also a touch of paprika, which is gonna add that extra kick to this dish. Everything is gonna look absolutely gorgeous. We got all these beautiful, vibrant colors, yellow, red. We got the meat in there. Honestly, this is a really, really beautiful dish. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. We're gonna give about a minute to let everything know each other and go straight in with the coconut milk. I got 2 cans here, but you basically wanna go with enough milk to cover everything to the top or almost to the top. After that, mix everything up, make sure that the milk is nice and even all over and that everything is kind of this one beautiful orange golden color. Now at this point, the rice has been kind of simmering there for about 15 minutes or so, so I made sure to turn off the heat, and we're gonna place a sheet of paper towel or a cloth over the top and close it with a lid. It's gonna soak up all that extra moisture and make sure that the rice is nice and fluffy. So the curry has been simmering under a lid for about 15 minutes or so. At this point, we're going to take the lid off and let it go for another 10-15 minutes or so, just to get some of that extra moisture out, reduce the sauce, thicken it up, and finish cooking the cassava and the meat. You can check with your fork. The cassava, for when it's done, your fork should go through it pretty easily, but also it should have a bit of a bite to it. That's how I like it. And then the sauce should be pretty smooth and leave a nice coating on the spoon. At that point, you're done. Top it off with a squeeze of lime juice for an extra tanginess, and let's serve. So we're gonna serve it with the rice, and you can see that all the moisture of it is completely out. It's nice and fluffy, everything is completely separate. It's great with a curry or with any other dish really. This rice lasts for a while. Put it in your fridge, serve it with whatever. This curry is absolutely delicious. It's sweet, tangy. You can add a bit of cayenne pepper to it for an extra spice. It is so filling and just breathes of summer, honestly. It lasts a few days. It's great for lunches. I hope you really enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you gave it a try, leave your thoughts in the comments, and until next time.